Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Can we talk about Death Race 2000?
Ooh, that radio voice.
Whoa. Yes, indeed. Hello again. Can we talk about podcast here? Flinging ourselves past the 1960s, we are pole vaulting like Zipper between gondolas from the 1950s gondola right over to the 70s one. Just skipping, again, don't need the 60s. Fuck it, get out of here.
Maybe another day. Maybe another podcast episode 1960s. For now, no.
Good game, 1960s. Just, take this participation ribbon, but today the 1970s is the winner. We are jumping ahead 25 years from Rashomon. Rashomon was 1950? Straight-ass 1950, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so we jumped 25 years to 1975 for B-movie classic Death Race 2000. I am Sylvester Stallone's early career. My name is Joe.
I am the big globe ring jewelry. I'm Kristen.
And we are experiencing Death Race 2000 through the magical world of YouTube. And I know a lot of B-movies are public domain, but I'm not certain if Death Race 2000 is, so
it's
whatever.
Tricky.
If it's on, hey, it's on YouTube, and I don't have to pay $4 to watch it, so, and I can just go to IMDb to read the trivia instead of, having Amazon do it for me, so, whatever. I was gonna do it this way.
It's not illegal for us to tell people, if you Google the name of this movie and find all of it on YouTube, you should watch it.
Exactly. And for those of you keeping score at home, you'll remember that I mentioned Roger Corman had a hand in this project last week. And indeed he did. He is a producer on this movie, though I kind of wish he was the director just so we could talk more about him, I guess. Our director for this feature is a man by the name of Paul Bartel. Kristen, are you aware of Paul Bartel?
Now I am.
He has many more credits as an actor than as a director, and even his most known for stuff on IMDb is Smuggler in The Usual Suspects and Congressman in John Carpenter's Escape from L.A.
Oof, that is rough.
He's just, he's a B-movie kind of guy, and I mean, his directorial efforts didn't really include anything that I noticed, so at least he's got this one. Good for you, buddy.
Yep, pour one out.
Let's talk about the star of our movie, Kristen. I believe we have moved on from Seymour at this point. We've gotten back on track with both Toshiro Mifune and now David Carradine, who is the lead of this movie, Frakenstein. He is Bill. He was killed.
Don't spoil it.
He took on this role very shortly after walking away from his role on the television series Kung Fu, which I have heard of, but I have never seen. I feel like there was I don't remember what movie it was. It might have been The 40-Year-Old Virgin, where Steve Carell's character and the lady that he eventually sleeps with both really liked Kung Fu. That was the connection that they made. I don't remember.
It was their breakfast at Tiffany's.
But I know that he played a Chinese monk on it, so there you go. 1970s series with white-ass David Carradine playing a Chinese guy.
Great. Our proud American tradition.
He has done a ton of shit since then. A lot of stuff that I just, Kristen, do you know him for anything other than Kill Bill?
No, I really don't.
He did play the character by the name of Poon Dong in Crank 2 High Voltage, which one of my favorite movies.
I've heard.
He is wearing so much makeup in that role you'd never be able to tell. So that is David Carradine's a cool guy in this movie, I gotta say, too. He's a cool guy. Well, I mean...
in the cool B-movie way, I guess.
Yeah, there we go. That's David Carradine, possibly the biggest name in this movie, although he isn't he's the second lead, the minor antagonist, maybe.
Yeah.
We have pre-Rocky Sylvester Stallone, so watch out for him. I wrote in my notes that he was in a minor role because it's been a while since I watched this movie. I am actually surprised how much Sylvester Stallone, how much he does in this movie.
Yeah, he's around there, and woof, looking good too, young Sylvester Stallone.
I'm glad that also one of the first things he does is make a really big Sylvester Stallone lip going down past his chin face.
That's the noise of me doing it too in real life.
So there we go.
Adrian!
Those are basically our two big people in this movie. I'm going to be honest, Kristen, I didn't really look up the female lead because, again, I forgot how much Annie played a part in the movie as well, so I don't even know her name, I'll be honest, I forgot.
She bored me, so...
So there we go, that's just a little look into Death Race 2000. Kristen, actually, I don't know, there's not really... There's a lot of terrible, synthesizer music in this movie.
Yeah, no kidding.
That really, twangy 1970s synthesizer. I don't know if there's, this is the first movie where we don't have a major song, I don't think. Well, technically Face Off, but Face Off still had something. But this movie here doesn't really have anything that I can put as like let's do the transition song. So maybe there's the soundtrack on YouTube somewhere. We'll see. If not, I'll put in Daytona USA music. We start on a painting of a car and like the sound of an engine revving, and it flashes through like different art cycles of the car. I didn't really read too much into it because I thought there was going to be more to it, but that's really all that happens.
Credit sequence, well, quote unquote, because there's not much credits going on there, but yeah, a lot of the art inside the car looks a little bit like a teenager drew it.
This is a B movie, Kristen. I feel like that we're going to be using that excuse a lot, but this is a B movie.
That's going to be this podcast episode's version of It's a Cartoon.
This movie may as well be a cartoon, Kristen, so that's what we're going to be working with. But yeah, as you said, the credit sequence starts, which is literally just David Carradine in Death Race 2000. But as the logo is flying towards the screen, and it looks like it says Death Race 2000, because the A is a little bit R-ish.
Yeah, it's significantly less cool sounding.
Is it? What is dearth a real word?
That sounds like one.
That sounds like something. It sounds like a simile for mire or something like dark, the dearth of the catacombs or something like that.
Dearth, if you add an A in there as well, is a scarcity or lack of something.
Huh.
A dearth of evidence.
A dearth of light in the catacombs.
A dearth of David Carradine wearing simultaneously too much clothes and entirely too little clothes.
We start on a shot of a trombone. We are staring directly down the goddamn face of a trombone as a marching band plays the national anthem, which isn't the first time we hear the national anthem in this, but it's probably the best version, this kind of shitty, probably high school marching band playing it.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that in this dystopian Death Race 2000 future that we still have the same national anthem.
Because the flag has changed.
Yeah.
The American flag, there is no blue on the American flag anymore. There's still the stripes, but there's like a weird gloved fist where the stars should be. And I believe at one point, Mr. President calls it the provinces of America or something? The provincial states of America, something like that?
Yeah, and he isn't even like there most of the time. Apparently, the only other country that exists is France, and I think some of China, but it's also America.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
They say that America is the greatest country in the universe, so...
yeah, I believe it's the greatest power in the universe or something like that.
Greatest power in the universe, so who knows what else exists.
It is the year 2000, after all.
Of course.
So we see, yes, that flag being raised. There's also, we start seeing the audience here, because we start at the stadium.
Yeah, crowd shots. Does that man have a flag with a swastika on it?
Yes, the very first crowd shot we see, there is a dude holding a Nazi flag, a flag with a swastika on it, because, we learn that he's a fan of Matilda the Hun, I'm assuming, but that's just like, oh, the future, what?
Yep. I didn't know that going in, so I scrolled back, because it was one person in all these crowd shots. Like, you see more people with them later, so I scrolled back in the timeline, and then I was like, yep, there it is, I see it! And I did write here in capital letters, Hunger Games!
Is this just the Hunger Games with cars? You know more about the Hunger Games than I do. Is this the Hunger Games with cars, Kristen?
It has hues of the Hunger Games in this. Also, Joe... So we're gonna cut to the main announcer man for the race soon. Does he remind you of anyone? Because I refer to him very specifically as the name of an actor throughout my notes.
What, Junior Bruce?
Is that his name?
The guy who's just like, and we're here at the race today.
Yes.
He definitely reminds me of somebody. He just reminds me of enthusiastic TV announcing man. Who did you have him?
I called him Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh my god, he kind of is Charles. He's not camp enough to be Charles Nelson Riley.
He's definitely one of the more camp people, but yeah, he is. I don't think it's possible to be as camp as Charles Nelson Riley, though.
He's certainly dressed very camp, I would say. So he has pieces of Charles Nelson Riley to him, I would say.
Also, his microphone looks like a sex toy.
Everybody's microphone looks like a sex toy.
Yep, man, the 70s were a weird time.
And it just says TV on it.
Yep, that's all that we have.
We see a stadium full of people, and there's a big wide shot with, I believe, the only matte painting in the movie, but wow, it looks like a matte painting, Kristen. I have gotten really bad about, like, when watching movies with my friends, I feel like an asshole every time, like, wow, nice matte painting. Just in the flattest tone possible, and I think they hate me when I do it, but this is one of the most obvious I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's also, like, far in the background, you see, like, an elevated train going by, and it looks so bad.
Yeah, it's a future city is the background, and just so you know, it's the year 2000. But we get a dude in white who gets up to talk to the crowd. I didn't really write down what he said. He is the deacon of the bipartisan party, correct?
Yeah.
I believe they refer to him later.
Mm-hmm. So he's just like, Mr. President, bless our races.
Yep, he's here to announce the 20th annual Transcontinental Road Race, where 5 men and women will risk their lives in the greatest sporting event since the days of Spartacus.
That's where I wrote the Hunger Games in really big text in my notes.
I wrote Carmageddon really big in my notes later, so we'll get to that.
Uh-huh.
The winner will be respected, but also feared. And the crowd cheers that because that's where we are in the future.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I understand how they would be feared if they're going to be mowing people down.
And here's where we cut to Charles Nelson Riley, the reporter on the scene, Junior Bruce, who refers to himself as your buddy and mine, which I don't know if that's a thing, but
whatever.
There we go. The cars start approaching, and first we have Calamity Jane Kelly in her bull-shaped car, which I believe is just literally called the Bull.
Yes, it is.
I have in my notes that this is literally already Wacky Races. It is a themed woman, this cowboy woman she's not wearing a cowboy hat or anything. Does she even have like a cowboy shirt on or anything? She's just like a lady with a bull car, pretty much.
Yeah, on her helmet there is the design looks a lot like, traditionally Southern embroidery on it.
Right,
the sort of thing that would usually be on the yoke of a cowboy shirt or something.
Right, and there's a lot of rhinestones on it as well.
Yep. So
here she is, Calamity Jane. We get an interview with her, and we learn Calamity Jane's, I guess, defining character point. She's not terribly important in this movie, but she has a penchant for taking many lovers, as the first thing that she says is that if her luck with love were any better, she would miss the race entirely. We have her navigator, Pete, as well, who doesn't do much in this movie either. I don't think I learned his name until way later, but he has a cigar in his mouth, and fucking whatever.
He has the great distinction of being the one that isn't a Nazi.
We cut to Grace Pander, who has the best name in the movie, I believe.
She also, we cut to her, and immediately I was like, reporting with cleavage.
Yeah, you get I believe there's a shot of the person holding the camera looking at her. He's standing in such a way, like he's knelt down, so you could just get like right in there just to see her cleavage. Grace Pander is here to interview the greatest racer of all time. A man is wheeled out on a gurney here with like a sheet over him, but the doctor, who is the director of the movie, by the way, this is, I forget his name already, Paul, it's very close to Paul Blart. It's Paul Bartel. There we are. Congressman. He's here and he's like, this is no cause for alarm. He is merely in cryostasis. Suspended animation after being flown in from abroad. This is Frakenstein. He had some limb transplants recently.
He had his face offed.
Also with some really like gross looking teeth. But we'll get to that later. So, Frankenstein sits up here, and they refrain from showing his face for a lot of this as the press gets in close and asks him some really wonderful press questions like, Frankenstein, how are things abroad?
They're good.
Is Mr. President still in Moscow?
He's good.
The first thing Frankenstein says, and is that when he talks to the press here, he kind of has this weird verbal like way of speaking that I think he drops by about pretty early in the movie of just like, I am Frankenstein and Mr. President loves he kind of talks like Torgo from Manos the Hands of Fate.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah. At this point, like, I was looking at the movie thinking, where's David Carradine?
Here, David Carradine.
Yeah, here he is. So I, like, very suddenly was like, is Frankenstein, like, with a name like that, is he gonna be a villain or something? Still had no idea what was going on, so it was, I had a lot on my mind at this point.
But yes, Frankenstein assures everyone that Mr. President loves everyone, and Grace Pander makes sure to say back that everyone loves him. So there we go. That's what, as well, again, everybody calls him Mr. President. He doesn't have a name. He is just Mr. President. And so, again, I know we've been calling it insistent terminology. I'm pretty sure it's persistent or consistent terminology. I'm not sure. But yes, everybody referring to him as Mr. President is just wonderful, and I love it.
Yeah, so I have something on my mind. Joe, what is the better Grace name? Grace Pander or Gracie Law?
Ooh, Gracie Law was a lawyer, though, right?
Yes, she was.
Ooh, fuck. I don't know. Because that's the thing. You could definitely see, like, part of the charm of Big Trouble in Little China was it was also very B-movie, so I don't know.
Yes. It's rough, right?
Fuck, I mean, I gotta go with Gracie Law. Just because she's Kim Cattrall. I got it. That's my reasoning.
And you know what? We shat on her a lot in that episode, but I really did enjoy Kim Cattrall in that movie.
She was really good. Although Grace Pander does do things that I will make sure, and I'm sure you noticed as well, that we will reference her verbal tick that I very much enjoy. We cut and see some Nazis in the audience, so here's where I'm sure you're like...
Well, they all went to America, I guess.
Well, Germany might be America at this point, so we don't know.
Yeah, well, this is Manhattan.
We see some Nazis in the audience, yes, cheering for that swastika sweetheart, Matilda the Hun, from Milwaukee.
What happened in this future that this is a thing? This isn't that many years after World War II.
I also like how her navigator is referred to by Junior Bruce as Herman the German. And Herman looks very much like Rick Moranis' Kristen.
Yeah, he does. How'd he sneak into this movie, too? Honey, I Shrunk Myself and then ended up a Nazi.
Matilda and Herman are also interviewed, and all I got out of that interview was, today California, tomorrow the world. And I don't know, fuck it, whatever. But apparently Herman and Calamity Jane have known each other in the biblical sense at some point, because she makes some crack about, juice and warheads and whatnot. She does say, I didn't know at this point that the Buzz Bomb is the name of the car that Matilda the Hun is driving. So I thought maybe I'm wrong. I thought she was referring to Rick Moranis' dick, but apparently it's the car.
Well, who knows? Okay, why not both?
To which Matilda quips, whoever called Jane's car the Bull was only half right.
I really liked that joke.
Frankenstein is still being interviewed. He's
loving it, by the way. Frankenstein, he's soaking it in. Real enthusiastic guy. America's sweetheart.
He has a new mechanical arm, and things are all still very mysterious about Frankenstein. He will be driving with a navigator he has never met, and Grace Pander assures him she's a red-hot sex pot.
We use terms like that on television, you see.
Frankenstein only cares if she's a red-hot navigator.
Yeah, that changes pretty quick, doesn't it?
So here we get Nero the hero arriving now. He is a very vain man, and his navigator is Cleopatra, who I really wish they didn't die so early in the movie, because I like the dynamic that they have.
Yeah, they were dicks to each other.
Nero is very clearly he should have just been called fucking narcissist, because he just gets up and he's just like, oh, my fans need to see me.
Cleopatra goes, what, they've never seen a has-been before?
Boom. Love it. Amazing.
Boom.
Frankenstein meets with Annie, his navigator, who has some, maybe I'm just saying this because they're both fucking blonde and blue-eyed, but she's very kind of Olivia Newton-Johnny, Annie is. Just kind of that straight-up, soft-spoken, generic-y kind of look to her.
She looks like a boring female lead from a 70s movie that isn't very good.
No, that's just like, hey, you got nice boobs, lady? You can show them in this movie.
Yeah, this movie, let me tell you right now, this movie had way more bare boobs than I expected it to going in.
Yeah, it has a few, 3 separate scenes, I think I could say, that had that bare breasts.
Pretty sure we see the boobies of every single lady in this movie.
Well, not all of Grace Pander.
All of the people in the... yeah, well, thank God. All of the people... who are racing in the cars, at least. We see all them boobs. We see David Carradine's boobs, too.
Annie seems like she has everything down pat, at least. She's just saying, oh, I got everything, this and that, and I'm even a trained nurse. And Frankenstein don't need no nurse.
I don't care if you're a red-hot trained navigator.
I don't care if you're a red-hot nurse navigator.
It's really hard to talk in my American Horror Story sex suit.
Finally, Machine Gun Joe Viterbo arrives, Sly Stallone himself, loved by thousands, hated by millions. He is the only previous winner racing today besides Frakenstein, and is second in total points only to Frakenstein. So he is the rival man, and Stallone just drives right up and is just so very Stallone in this movie, Kristen.
Yeah, he's cranking that Italian up way high.
He is jeered by the fans of Frakenstein, who are all wearing black shirts with a big white F on them. They're like Team Rocket shirts.
I guess there are no graphic designers in the future.
And he's just like, what, you want to see Frankenstein? I'll show you Frankenstein. I'm going to be doing my shitty Italian Sylvester Stallone so much in this movie.
Yeah, I could tell. He says some great shit in this movie, so I do not blame you.
He does. So he gets up with a machine gun and just opens fire into the stands. I don't know if he kills anybody. It doesn't show it, but that's just, he does his fucking Rambo face when he's doing it too, with his mouth open going, aah!
That's that character.
And here's where Frakenstein arrives. He is the only 2-time winner of the race, and he's fucking indestructible. He has lost an arm. He has lost a leg. He has lost most of his skull. He has lost both of his eyes. He has lost his fucking jaw. He's lost, everything. His ribs fucking caved in.
The only thing he hasn't lost is apparently his dick.
I was thinking about making that joke, but I'm glad you did it.
You're welcome.
Stallone spits on his car as well, and Frankenstein is just like, you'll regret that, Joe.
What voice does this remind me of? God damn it.
I'm trying to do, like, either, like, a weird Torgo kind of, like, scientist kind of guy, maybe? I don't know. That's what I'm going with.
I think it's the Torgo in your impression that's making an impression on me.
Before the race starts, we get a message from Mr. President himself in his summer home in Peking, accompanied by some lovely fucking, again, like, whiny fucking, it's not necessarily a synthesizer. I can't remember the fucking name of the instrument, but it's just very, like, electronic, like, like doing the national anthem, clouded in smoke, as he just says some bullshit. Mr. President says a lot of useless bullshit in this movie, and I don't think I've written down any of it.
He might as well not say anything for the content. The, like, sheer density of his statements are basically like air.
A political figure saying a lot of big words that don't mean anything. So that's the future. Very wonderful. There. Good one.
Yay.
He starts the race. Now we cut to some dude doing his best Howard Cosell impression. The character's name is Harold, and Howard Cosell, for Kristen, you probably don't know that name. That is a famous sportscaster from about the time of the 1970s. So very, very close to what Harold sounds like.
Great.
He has a certain way of speaking that sounds a little forced, but also quite informative. And that probably, since I can barely hear myself talking, that probably sounded awful.
It sounded okay. Just okay.
So he throws it back to Junior Bruce, and the race is starting here in New York, and they are already driving out from the Lincoln Tunnel. I don't know where the fuck they're starting, but boom, vroom, out of the Lincoln Tunnel. There we go. Joe and Frankenstein, neck and neck. They start to...
Joe!
Yes.
I have a question.
Please.
How many days does this movie take place over?
They make it sound like 3, so they must be driving... I mean, at one point, they say that Frankenstein's driving 200 miles an hour, so...
I was thinking 3 days, too.
Because they have 2 pit stops in St. Louis and Albuquerque before, like, New LA is the destination of the race, and I believe it is 3 days that they are racing over.
Okay, because that is the linchpin of some of my criticisms later with the character development.
Well, you know, again, this is a B-movie, whatever, so...
Thanks for bolstering my argument. We'll talk about it later.
Joe sideswipes Jane at the beginning, too, who goes straight into a sign that says, Mr. P loves you, so there we go. I guess that's Mr. President's campaign slogan, is just, hey, love you.
Love you. It took me so long to understand that the Mr. P meant Mr. President.
I mean, okay, fair enough. I think that should have been obvious.
I was just like, who the fuck is Mr. P?
Joe spins out immediately, too, but this isn't Mario Kart, and he gets back into second, like, immediately, so that's another thing. Spinning out doesn't really do much to you in this race.
Nah, they all get to the checkpoints at the same time, too, so there were some of the extended driving sequences where I was like, I don't need to watch all of this.
And this is a movie that is only an hour and 11 minutes long.
My time is precious, Joe. I work 6 days a week.
True. True. So the cars get out on their way. We get another message from Mr. President here. He has made the United...
He loves you!
He has made the United Provinces of America the greatest force in the known universe during his reign. Apparently he's also been in power since about 1980, I think. Like, he's been around as long as the race, I think, right?
We don't have a democracy anymore in Death Race 2000 future.
The Transcontinental Road Race is the most popular sporting event going, and Mr. President says it upholds the great American tradition of no holds barred.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan in a cage. Blah, blah, blah.
No thanks.
We see what seems to be a resistance movement against Mr. President here. Well, what I said at the time was what seems to be, but it is, in fact, a resistance movement. And it is Lieutenant Fury and like Thomasina Payne, but I called her Grandma in my notes for the entirety of the movie, because she is Annie's grandmother, as it turns out. Although she says great-grandmother by the end of the movie, so I'm not sure. That might be just a goof. That might be just under the goof section in IMDb.
Yeah, she seems a little bit too old for that.
Yeah, it's just basically Annie is a mole, essentially, for the Resistance. She was planted in order to make a strike against Mr. President because Frakenstein is one of Mr. President's dear friends.
The best of friends.
So we cut back to Annie and Frankenstein, and she's very interested in taking off his mask. I guess we forgot to mention, Frankenstein got a bit of a, he's got some weird-looking teeth. He's got some, the mask on his face. He's wearing, like, all black leather. Well, it's not leather, actually. Kristen, fun fact, David Carradine didn't want to wear leather, so his costume was made out of a fabric that just looks like leather.
Pleather.
Possibly. IMDb didn't say.
Uh-huh. But yeah, that's what I was talking about when I referred to the American Horror Story sex suit.
Yes, of
Basically, something very similar to the effect that a Zentai suit would get you, except with some eye holes and some nose hole and some mouth hole.
Yeah, and he's got a bit of a burned eye and shit. And Annie doesn't seem terribly intimidated by Frankenstein with the face either, with his face, because she wants to know, what do you look like under that mask? I heard nobody knows your identity. And Frankenstein confirms, like, nope, only my old navigators, and they're all dead. And they don't really explain why they're dead. I mean, I guess it's technically, we learn, Frankenstein's been in a lot of crashes and shit, so maybe that's how they died, but he didn't die.
They used a mega cool surgery to save him, but not the navigators.
So, Frankenstein goes over all the shit that he's lost some more, both eyes, cranium again, in addition to the arm and leg. He's been through some shit, basically.
He's been through the meat grinder.
I had forgotten that he looked like just normal-ass David Carradine under the face mask. I'm like, so wait a minute, what happens here? Does he take off the mask this early in the movie? And he does. And he's just like, I want to see. And he's just like, oh, well, I'll take no responsibility for what happens after that. Like, implying that he's got, like, a skeleton face underneath, like he's fucking Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
I wish.
Underneath the mask, it's just David Carradine. It is literally just David Carradine.
Yeah, he looks fine. I wrote... I missed a bunch of my notes, I'm sorry.
Please, go ahead.
This is after a little bit of an extended sequence of all the cars driving and everything with all the side swiping and whatever, and I wrote, this Hot Wheels race is awesome.
They are all driving in Hot Wheels cars, yes. I don't know if we failed to mention most of that. Again, we said that Calamity Jane looks like a bull. Matilda's is fashioned after a fucking V1 rocket. Machine Gun Joe's just looks like it's got like a knife and a machine gun on the front of it. I don't know if he uses the Tommy gun at all, but it's just got a giant knife fashioned to the front of it. Nero the Hero, I didn't really get a good look at his car.
Yeah, Frankenstein's looks kind of like a dragon.
Yeah, Frankenstein looks like it looks like a Hot Wheels car. It does.
And when the race started, I was confused because at the stadium, I thought they were on a racetrack at first. So I was like, wait, is this a fucking racetrack or not? And so it says, as soon as they sped out of the Lincoln Tunnel, I was like, okay, guess not.
So we get just basically, it's fairly alright looking David Carradine. The mask is just for show, I guess, to, kind of hide his identity, maybe. We cut to Joe, who is angry as shit, as per, like, almost every time we cut to Sylvester Stallone in this movie, Kristen, he is very angry.
Always got something to complain about, those Italian boys.
He's angry because he doesn't have droves of fans out to see him, so he takes a left turn, as per Myra, his navigator. I don't think we mentioned Myra. Myra is his navigator, and she's just a general lady, I guess. She's got a bit of a high voice, maybe. She's a
little bit Marilyn Monroe-y.
Yeah, kinda, a little bit. So he takes this left turn, and there's a bunch of construction workers out who all run away from the car, and here is where, Kristen, yes, the point system makes itself apparent as Machine Gun Joe runs down this construction worker, and we cut to Junior Bruce, who could not be happier. He's just like, oh my god, the first kill of the race. Wow, it's too bad he was only 38, because if he were 40, he would have been worth 3 times as many points.
Aw, damn. Yeah, I wrote in my notes as they were approaching these construction workers, I was like, why are you doing road work during the death race, bro? And I thought that Stallone killed him just because he's a dick. And he is a dick, but no, it was for points. There are people outside, other than the Resistance people, who have a reason to be out there, and they're just hanging out, not really paying attention to whether or not there are death racers in their states.
For the second year in a row, Machine Gun Joe gets the first kill. The scoring actually isn't really expounded upon until the next scene, which is kind of weird. I think it kind of maybe should have been edited backwards. I don't know. But we cut back to Frakenstein, who's just like, is there a problem with the engine? Why don't you go check it? So Annie gets back, like, on the back of the car while it's driving, and Frankenstein just tries to be a dick and, like, speeds up and heads off onto a dirt road. I don't know if he's trying to, like, psych her out or scare her or something, but he seems to be taking great pleasure in it as well, because he's just, like, smiling. But Annie doesn't complain, she just does it.
Yep, and she goes back down, and I guess this is when he starts to like her.
Well, she's got pizzazz. She's got some fire in her.
She's got the devil in her!
The Devil and Frankenstein, what a great pair!
Oh my god, new spin-off.
So here is where, yes, the cars are heading into Pennsylvania, according to Harold at this point, and apparently the rules have changed regarding point scoring, but luckily Harold is here to let us know that women are worth 10 points more than men, teens are worth 40, and anyone under 12 is worth 70 points. The big one, apparently, people over the age of 70 are worth 100 points, so that is our scoring system. Mostly dudes get killed, and not within any of these ranges here. So I'm wondering exactly... They're not terribly... Like, they don't show point totals throughout the movie. They don't tell you how much anybody has. You know, they don't tell you... It's like, oh, just like, oh, that guy was worth X points. And you're like, okay, all right. Like, okay.
I trust your math. This is one of those things where it actually does ring to our Hunger Games future, because the way that they approached a lot of the stuff from the books are written from the first person perspective, which I hate, but I still enjoy the content of, and they have the guy who is like the kind of Switzerland neutral announcer for the Hunger Games, has segments where he talks directly to the camera as if it's a TV and explains the rules.
Oh, well, that's pretty good. Again, yeah, I like how a lot of the, you know, it'll show like this is being broadcast on a television, and we see people watching it and stuff too, as well as, you know, I guess how they cover the race on television for the various things that happen. Here's where in my notes I wrote Carmageddon in all capital letters, because it is literally, Carmageddon is just, it's not about finishing the race, it's about running a lot of people over.
Did you feel like giving podcast listeners any extra information on Carmageddon? Because I know that's something we both know about, but...
Carmageddon's a video game, Kristen. I got it on Steam, and it's fun, and I like it.
No more information than that about, like, controversy?
It's controversial because you're running people over.
Great. It was one of those first controversial video games. That's kind of what I was trying to get to.
We talk about Mortal Kombat enough. I think, you know...
It's like that and Night Trap. They're on the same level.
Wow, Night Trap. That's a really deep reference, Kristen.
Is it?
I think so. I don't know if people know about Night Trap for the Sega CD.
I know a weird amount of FMV games.
We see Jane going after a matador in her bull car. Like, I guess, is this...
That guy's just an asshole. He deserves to get run over.
Is this just a coincidence that she runs into a guy with a red sheet with her bull car? I mean, I'm certain that whoever wrote... I think Roger Corman actually wrote the movie, but it was really serious at first, so he gave it to another guy to give it, like, a comedy treatment. So I'm wondering if it was just like, well, we have a lady with a bull car. She has to run into a matador, of course.
Maybe it's like he's her fan and wanted to make a show out of his death to give her points.
Maybe, but yeah, he gets run over.
And then he gets gored.
So we cut to a hospital where a bunch of old people are being wheeled out in front of it into the street.
This shit is dark!
As we see Frankenstein's car approaching, and he very casually remarks to Annie, "Oh, Euthanasia Day. They do this every year." Woo!
Right? So he is heading towards all those old people, and since we just learned the rules, you think to yourself, damn, that's a lot of points. But he swerves, and you see him behind, like, a island in this drive-through through this old folks' home, him running over a bunch of doctors.
And Junior Bruce and Grace discuss Frankenstein's possible score. Grace surmises, and I enjoy this, I don't know if they're just trying to make Frankenstein look better, or like, because again, they do everything in their power to fucking spin the story, this goddamn Mr. President's totalitarian government, where Grace is just like, it's those doctors have been getting really smug lately about putting the old people out. Frankenstein just decided it's their turn to die.
Uh-huh. The newscaster guy you were mentioning before has one of my favorite lines in the entire movie, where he says that this act was due to Frankenstein having a 100% red-blooded American sense of humor.
That's amazing. I love it.
It's very good.
So we cut back to Annie's grandma and Lieutenant Fury, who are still watching and discussing what happened. Lieutenant Fury seems to be, he's very intent on fucking up the race for the Resistance. I'm not sure, I mean, it sounds like that the initial plan was just for Annie to be with Frankenstein and have them install their, like, fake Frankenstein to kill Mr. President. But for some reason, Lieutenant Fury is just like, you know what, we need to blow up everybody else too, so let's do that. Yeah,
I guess that's a sort of, well, we don't like these people to begin with, might as well take them out and let the government know that we're doing it.
I mean, it would be very easy to fashion the Resistance as good guys in this movie, but they don't do themselves many favors.
They're mostly incompetent.
Let Operation Anti-Race begin, as Grandma says.
Come up with a better name!
She's just the leader of the Resistance, Kristen. She's not involved in the operations of naming.
She's not part of the creative team.
Nero the hero is now out in the middle of nowhere. Cleopatra is lamenting that there's nobody around to score from, that they are going to be the last ones to make any points. And she says, you should have went after that Boy Scout camp.
But Boy Scouts are fast.
Nero the hero, again, yes, with a lovely line saying, do you know how fast those Boy Scouts are? Oh, so also in the previous scene, I forgot to mention, Lieutenant Fury puts on a bonnet in the middle of it, and we're not sure exactly what's going on. And then we see Nero looks like, there's a family picnic out near Nero's car, and Cleopatra's like, oh, go run them down. Make sure to hit the woman and the baby.
Yep. You see all the people in the picnic run away, and apparently leave the baby behind, and Cleopatra just keeps going, get the baby! Get the baby!
But uh-oh, baby bomb.
Yeah, we see that it is a bonneted Lieutenant Fury. And they explode, and there goes those characters.
You lasted 20 minutes. Good shit. Good shit, Cleopatra and Nero. I hope you got more than $500 for your paycheck.
You know what? They have better credit on their IMDb page than the director of this movie.
So we cut to Junior Bruce. There's basically panic at the studios as, Junior Bruce is like, what happened? What happened? What happened?
Panic at the disco.
So we cut to Grace at this point, who is just like, just throw to Grace's interview, because she's getting an interview with one Rhonda Bainbridge, who is the widow of the first victim.
Uh-huh.
Who is both crying, but she also seems to be pretty happy about being on Grace's show, because it's just like,
get a condo!
He's like, how you doing, Miss Bainbridge? Do you mind if I call you Rhonda? And she's like, that would be great, Grace. And yeah, she wins a condo in Acapulco for her husband being the first kill.
So, the government ain't all bad.
Hey, who said the government never did anything for the people that were killed during this race?
Right? They should be grateful.
The signal suddenly gets jammed at this point as we get, again, I already forget her name, fucking Thomasina Payne, Grandma, giving a message to the masses. She has the old flags there. She looks like Betsy Ross, kinda. Or like a historical depiction of Betsy Ross.
Like Betsy Ross, but scarier.
She lets everybody know that the death of Nero the hero was the first stroke against Mr. President, and that she is the leader of this resistance group. She's here to have people stand up. War is declared on Mr. President and the transcontinental road rape. Did you see what she did there, Kristen? Huh? It's like race, but not.
I don't even want to call it a play on words because that makes it sound a little bit more clever than it actually is.
The other racers ask, do they have like an onboard computer or something? Because we see both Jane and Matilda going, wait a minute, is the race still going? And the computer going, no information.
Do their radios respond to their voices?
This is the only time that it happened, so I really have no idea.
Great!
Whatever. Annie, for some reason, I don't know if this is helping to give herself away or anything, but she's like, wow, what'd you think? And Frankenstein's like, wait, what? What are we talking about?
About the thing with the resistance.
I
mean, I think that's what they're called. I wouldn't know.
How'd you like the speech from my grandma? I mean, somebody's grandma.
So someone's grandma, I assume.
And Frankenstein's just like, it added spice to the race. It was, I like a nice little boom paprika on this fucking mashed potatoes.
What? Paprika on mashed potatoes?
I don't know. I was like, what do you add paprika to?
Deviled eggs?
Oh. So, I wanted something kind of generic. Mashed potatoes, are deviled eggs generic, Kristen?
Eggs in general are like pretty bland white people food.
But not deviled eggs, I don't think.
No, those are fancy.
Excuse me, garçon, your finest deviled eggs, please.
Oh, yes, of course, right away, sir. Well, what kind of wine would you like to pair with that?
So Annie's like, is the only thing you're worried about winning? And he's like, no, the only thing that I'm worried about is Machine Gun Joe. So at least this makes it seem like Stallone seems like a joke throughout the movie. So at least Frankenstein seems like he considers him a threat.
Yeah. Also, his priorities shift from the only thing he cares about. That also turns into winning at some point.
Yes, as well. Yeah, winning is all he cares about. It's the only standard of excellence left, as he says, which is a pretty good line, I think.
Except the only thing that worries him is also Machine Gun Joe.
That's the only thing he's worried about. The only thing he cares about is winning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We cut to some resistance dudes building a barricade. This is a scene that does not last very long. It is just them going, oh shit, here comes a car. And they hide
behind... They build a bad fence.
They hide behind it. And they're just like, there's a giant goddamn hole in the middle. What are we gonna do? And then Matilda runs them down from behind anyway. And is this the first... I know she does it twice. Is this the first point where she just goes and screams, Blitzkrieg?
I don't remember.
Because, again, she does that twice. And it might be the same shot twice. I didn't check.
She's German.
The cars are about to converge on St. Louis for the first pit stop. And we learn that even though Joe is leading, Frankenstein has a few more points. Now, I'm assuming that the way that this is done, because they stop for a pit stop and then they go back on the next day, I'm assuming that it's basically whoever has the best time, and then it's kind of like the Steel Ball Run, kind of. This movie's kind of like Steel Ball Run, Kristen.
Yeah, I think it's more like Cannonball Run. But I understand why Steel Ball Run would be your point of reference.
I don't think I've actually seen Cannonball Run.
I haven't either, but I understand that that's what Steel Ball Run is based on.
I'm assuming it's basically, like Steel Ball Run, Cannonball Run, whatever. Whoever has the best time and the most points, and that kind of all factors in together. So, I'm assuming that's how the race goes anyway.
It's like Quidditch.
Sure.
You can catch the snitch and still lose.
True. I remember that happened in one of the books, and I was like, what the fuck?
In the 4th book, during the Quidditch World Cup.
Yeah, fuck that.
Ireland versus Bulgaria.
Quidditch is fucking stupid, Kristen.
Yes, it is.
We cut to a shot here of all the cars being, they're panning across the cars here, and we get to the end where the wreckage of Nero the Hero's car is there for some reason.
They parked it in its spot.
A good visual gag.
Uh-huh.
So all the racers are getting massages at this point, too. They're navigators as well, because, sitting in a car for 19 hours a day, that's probably... I mean, that might fuck you up after a while, so,
Mm-hmm. Worth noting, everyone is fully nude, and all of the women are positioned in such a way that you can see their boobs. They're, purposely propped up, so it's like, ah-ha-ha.
B-movie!
There they are.
Gotta get people to come see this movie somehow.
Yep.
So, some dude in a brown suit who we see... There are a lot of people in brown suits. I think this is the same one throughout, though, who I just referred to, of course, as Brown Suitman, because I don't know if they actually name him.
The guy with the bad hair?
The guy with the bad hair. He has some fucking rough hair.
Yes, he does.
He goes on just letting the racers know, hey, don't say anything about Nero. Just let him know, hey, if they ask you a question, he hit a tree. That's it. But Sylvester Stallone is just like, boy, it was on television.
The resistance. That was me yawning in the middle of that.
It sounded remarkably Sylvester Stallone.
Man, why am I suddenly good at doing impressions of men?
Grace Pander is here to interview Matilda, a dear friend of hers. And Matilda, this doesn't really...
She repeatedly calls her Tilda.
This doesn't really go anywhere. It's just Matilda going, I'm gonna win. And then Jane's just like, you're not. And then Matilda's like, get the fuck away from Rick Moranis. And then they get up and they look like they're gonna fight. And here you go, bare bosoms, everybody.
Yep, they get into a slapping naked fight.
They don't even slap each other, I don't think. They just
they kind of grab at each other.
Yeah.
Passionately.
They embrace. All they needed was each other all along.
And a wind machine.
Frankenstein arrives, and he gives a cliche answer to some dude who's just like, it doesn't matter how you win or lose, how you play the game. And then Grace runs over to him, calling Frankenstein a dear friend of hers as well. And I guess nothing happens with that, because I don't have...
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything to say.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, maybe Grace has something to him, but Frankenstein doesn't really... Whatever, Frankenstein's here. Grace talks to him for something, doesn't really matter. Annie's getting a massage as well, and he notices that Machine Gun Joe is talking to her. So Frankenstein goes over to Myra, again, the Miss Marilyn Monroe-y kind of person. And does he feed her like a strawberry or something? He puts something in her mouth.
It looks like he, like, shoves a watermelon piece into her mouth or something, and she just kind of spits it out like, don't!
And Myra's just like, what are you doing? If Joe sees you, he's gonna kill me! And Frankenstein's just like, just say I was whispering sweet nothings into your ear.
The master said I should whisper sweet nothings in your ear.
And, she gets slapped for this for some reason. Because Joe immediately...
Joe's a bad person.
First of all, the press is all just like, what did Frankenstein say to you? And...
I don't know why, but I want to do an impression of her going like, oh, nothing, but I want to do it in like an Audrey voice to be like, oh, you didn't say nothing!
There was nothing sweet in my ear!
You know what? Myra kind of gets the short end of the stick this whole movie.
She kind of does, because she talks back to Joe sometimes, but it's mostly just like, you should do this, and Joe just be like, oh, I'm going to be Sylvester Stallone. And he does that, and then he hits her, and then they blow up.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Oops. Spoiler alert for this B-movie, everyone dies.
Not everyone.
The majority of the racers die.
4/5 of the racers die. So Frankenstein walks away at this point, and he can tell he's being followed, because he kind of like presses his back against the wall as a lady's following him, and he's just like, what do you want? And this lady, who I don't believe we learn her... No, we do learn her name. I didn't write it down. Oh no, that's what she wanted! She wanted Frankenstein to remember her name!
Whoops, I don't remember what it is either.
She is the leader of Chapter 7 of the St. Louis Fans of Frankenstein, and she's just like, you know, Frankenstein, you're great. And Frankenstein's like, we're gonna fuck? What are we doing here?
Yeah, like, you gonna go to the bone zone with me, or are you just wasting my time? So yeah, so basically she postures at him saying like, oh, well, according to all the fan fiction me and my friends write to each other, if this were modern, that's exactly what she would have said. You're afraid of falling in love, and we really care about you, and I just want you to know who I am now, because later you're gonna hit me with the car.
Yeah, Frankenstein's just like, what? What are you doing? And Frankenstein starts doing the whole, like, you know, why do you consider me a hero? Because I kill people? And she's just, you know, Frankenstein just seems very jaded with the whole concept of the race. And, I mean, we learn later, I mean, at least it's implied, I think, that Frankenstein's not even necessarily Frankenstein. He's just some dude who was like made to win the race.
Cobbled together.
Kinda, yeah. I don't know. He's pieces of other various Frankensteins.
It's like that philosophical question. If you have a favorite pair of socks that you like so much that every time you get a hole in them, you patch it up with a different fabric, how many times do you patch it up before they're no longer that same pair of favorite socks?
Wow. Wow, that's deep. Frankenstein and socks.
How many times is there Frankenstein until there's not Frankenstein anymore?
So Annie arrives back in her and Frankenstein's hotel room. I assume it's a hotel. It's like a giant fucking... everything's like white and red.
It's a square box.
It's a really weird looking place. Frankenstein's already like sitting on the chair, but Annie's here, and he does the whole, like, you know... mother turning on the lamp to the teenage daughter when she gets home late, and it's just like...
Yeah, I was gonna say that, so it's funny that that's what you said too.
And he's like, what were you doing talking with Joe? And she's like, you know, Joe wanted to know our route, so I gave him this route. And Frankenstein's like, well, wait, that's a dead end. And she's like, yep. So, haha, pulling one over on him.
He says sorry twice because he says it too quiet the first time.
And she's just like, you what? You're what? You're sorry?
Also, there's one bed in here as if they assumed that they were going to bone each other.
Hey, Kristen, as I'm sure you noticed, all of the driver and navigator combos are boy-girl.
Ah, how heteronormative.
Well, at least they're switching it up, you know? Matilda and Jane are the drivers, and they got, you know, fucking Pete with the cigar.
I did think that, like, the first two drivers they introduced were women. It was like, wow, okay, I did not expect that in this movie called Death Race 2000.
And Near the Hero's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, don't love that one of them's a Nazi.
Well.
I wouldn't have liked any of them being Nazis, I guess, so that's fair all around.
So, Annie at this point as well, she makes advances on Frankenstein first here, pretty much, right?
She is mostly naked, rolling around on a bed of red silk sheets.
True, and Frankenstein starts taking off his clothing till he's just down in his underpants.
If I never see David Carradine in just underpants... It'll be too soon.
Would you have preferred if in Face Off at some point Nick Cage was shirtless and like throwing his head back so you could totally see all of his fucking terrible Nick Cage chest? Would you have preferred that to seeing David Carradine in just underpants?
It's hard because the thing that I didn't like in Face Off was seeing John Travolta shirtless.
And that's true. That's not 70s John Travolta either. This is 70s David Carradine.
Yeah, so he's a weird body shape. I wasn't a fan of it. Let's leave it at that.
He offers to dance with Annie at this point while wearing only underwear, his one glove, and for some reason he puts his face mask back on.
How romantic! Of course she says yes.
Yeah, so who wouldn't want to dance with that weirdo with the face mask? And then they sex.
Then they go to the bone zone.
So it's time for the next day of the race. Frankenstein leaves his glove behind as they start out the race. One of the things that they talked about was Joe would only take the path if he was ahead of Frankenstein. So this is presumably Frankenstein's plot to give Joe a pretty big lead. Because as the race starts and he drops his glove, we see, Junior Bruce is just like, oh, Frankenstein took an immediate left. Wait a minute, he's coming back around. And even Annie's like, what are you doing? And Frankenstein's like, I left my glove.
and then he hits the deacon.
Yes. For some reason, the deacon, who introduces the second day of the race as well, he walks out into the middle to grab Frankenstein's glove. Maybe it's a fucking picking up...
my trophy!
It's the fucking, Brian's shoe in The Life of Brian. Like, oh, I got to touch a piece of Jesus!
I got it!
But no, he gets run over.
And it starts this whole discussion about whether or not you could actually get a score for killing people who work for the race.
And I like how Sylvester Stallone hears this on the radio. He's like, there's no way he's gonna score. It fucking don't matter.
Yeah, and then live on TV, someone gets a note, and they were like, oh yeah, Frankenstein's gonna get points for that. So, the favorite son, Frankenstein.
Changing the rules as they go along. I mean, Joe is pissed, and he should be, because they changed the rules just for Frankenstein, as well as Frankenstein after he drives away. I believe it's Annie who goes, wasn't that the deacon of the bipartisan party? Why'd you run him over? And Frankenstein's just like, hey, it's my obligation as the hero of America. Gotta give the people something to talk about. And then he makes finger guns, and then he drives into a tree.
Then the movie's over.
So we see the female fan from before at this point. She is dressed in all white, like she's at a fucking baptism or something. Just standing out in the middle of the road. There's a bunch of lady fans with the Frankenstein shirts on as well. And I thought Frankenstein was gonna miss her, but he doesn't.
Nah, he runs her over.
Right down.
I have to wonder, what does it say about his fan club that they couldn't find someone willing to sacrifice himself that was worth more points than a teen girl? I'm just thinking logically.
Maybe that's just Chapter 7, Kristen. Maybe it's all just lady fans of Frankenstein in St. Louis.
You know what? Maybe. Don't know how demographics work.
But yeah, Annie's just like, why did she do that? And Frankenstein's like, hey, she loved me, and that's how she wanted to show it. So you know what? Fuck it. I'll fulfill her. You know what? When you think about it, if Frankenstein swerved to miss her, she probably would have broke down and thought that Frankenstein hated her or something. So who knows?
Yeah. The master has many wives. This one belongs to me.
Damn it. She was dressed like one of the master's wives too.
A little bit. Not sexy enough.
No.
Yeah. This episode's gonna be really weird if you haven't seen Manos Hands of Fate.
Oh my god, goddamn. We cut to some shitty greaser looking dudes who are standing in the middle of the street, apparently to play chicken with Jane. I don't understand what I believe Pete kind of moves over, kind of leans over to her and goes, chicken gang. And for some reason it goes to chicken in a basket. And she goes, chicken in a casket!
Yep, so they are standing next to an open manhole. Two of them jump down in time, but the second one who goes down closes it, so the third guy, when he jumps on top of it and goes, oh shit.
And he gets ran over.
Tunnel Snake's rule.
For some reason I put Tunnel Snake's rule in my notes.
I like it!
And then the other two come up to see what happened, and then Joe promptly runs them over.
Yeah, they get squished underneath the manhole.
Gross.
Yuck. There's some big yucks in this movie.
Oh, but we'll get to that. So Joe and Myra are chatting. I like this little exchange part here where Joe and Myra are chatting about the shortcut that Annie told him about, where Myra's just like, I think it's a tramp. And Joe's like, no, I'm not gonna, no, I'll do it. No, I'll do it. No, I'm not gonna do it. I would be a schmuck if I went through and did that. And then And then he does it.
Yep, shows him swerving and being like, I'm doing it.
I mean, there's a lot of, obviously this is a B movie, Kristen, so there's a lot of, like, sped up footage of the cars racing, but that one was particularly, it looked like something out of fucking Looney Tunes.
It was very funny.
And then, of course, it cuts to him right afterwards, where he's like, so what, call me a fuck, I'm not a schmuck, I'll put it on record, I didn't fuck you, basically.
Yep.
There's a lot of mushmouth Sylvester Stallone in this episode and a lot of Torgo.
What a great combination for the ages.
New buddy cop movie, great. So Annie lets Frankenstein know that there is a big scoring opportunity that's a little out of the way on the way to Albuquerque. It is a nearby penitentiary with a bunch of chained up congressmen. So that, do we file that under like noodle incident if this were TV tropes, Kristen, as to why these congressmen are all in jail?
Yeah, I guess so. It seems to make sense to them, so they're like, yeah, let's go.
Frankenstein says something about driving through a cyclone fence as well, and we never... This is a lie. This is Annie lying to Frankenstein. There is no... It's in Japan, this place.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the fuck a cyclone fence is, but Frankenstein's just like, I gotta drive through a cyclone fence? Not today, lady.
She's like, well, we're not gonna get any more points if we don't go out of our way to do this, so do you want points or not? And he goes, okay.
So we cut to the Resistance now, and there's a dude dressed in like a It's not a very good Frankenstein costume. It's kind of loose on him.
Frankenstein cosplay.
We get a Frankenstein cosplayer. There's like a fire barricade that Frankenstein comes across that he ends up jumping, and then the dude dressed as Frankenstein gets run down, and Frankenstein's just like, what's going... Apparently Frankenstein was driving too... There's a lot of incidences where if the Resistance were there like 15 minutes earlier, they might have done more, but it looks as though they just weren't able to enact their plan in time.
He came to the party too early.
So we cut back to Joe. He is pissed. He's driving down a shitty road at this point. He is sick of the race. He is sick of Myra, and then just right back to Frankenstein, who is still just like... He's definitely concerned about what happened back there. And Annie's just like, well, don't worry about it. You're still alive. They didn't work. They didn't get you.
We find out that Annie is the worst liar ever in the scene.
My plan didn't work. Our plan didn't work.
It sucks that this happened to me. To us.
Well, no, because, yeah, we see that, I guess, Frankenstein seems to be dropping hints that he at least cares for Annie at this point, because he's just like, well, no, they nearly got us. We are a team, after all. It's at this point that he also stops the car, and he's going to let Annie drive for a while. She's not trained as such, but Frankenstein's just like, no, you're going to make a big score for us. You're going to do it. You're going to do it to it. And she's just like, okay.
And this idiot walks around the front of the car.
Yeah, she does it later too, but I guess it doesn't cross her mind that Frankenstein could have very easily just run her down at that point.
The second time it does, but then he does a little switcheroo on her that we'll get to.
It takes Frankenstein to rev the engine of the car for her to be like, wait a minute, I'm standing in front of the car.
I feel like he might be suspecting me of something.
So we cut back to Joe. He makes it to the end of that route where he sees a fisherman, and he's just like, how do I get to Albuquerque from here? And
it's a cliff where there's no more road is the important thing.
Yes, that too.
Oh, I get to Albuquerque!
And the fisherman is just like, you gotta go back to the main road. Sorry, buddy. Wait a minute, don't I recognize you? Yeah, Sylvester Stallone? Right, and you're looking like a gangster, and you got like the Tommy gun and shit. You must be Frankenstein!
And Stallone's not thrilled about that, so he goes and mows this guy down, even driving in the little creek to do it.
And it makes a cartoon sound effect when he runs him over.
It goes like, bonk!
Is this one of the big, big gore shots where, does he run over his head? Is this the one where somebody runs over his head and it makes the big...
No, he gets stuck on his butt and it kicks up guts from his butt because the wheel keeps spinning on top of him.
And that is when it makes the cartoon sound effect, yes.
He spills his butt guts.
Oh, God. It also lasts a really long time. This goes for like 45 seconds.
Pretty gross.
So Pete is on the side of the road with Jane. He's under the car fixing it. Apparently, I don't know what, something might have happened. Who knows what could have happened. But Jane's just kind of talking like, let's see what we could do here. And then
no one hears this car coming at 200 miles an hour. This is their own fault.
And Matilda runs by and just runs down Pete and then again goes, Blitzkrieg! Yeah, nobody fucking scores on Jane's mechanic and gets away with it. Or navigator. I guess he's technically the mechanic, too. He's a jack of all trades, like Rio, of course.
Oh, of course. He's also the lights man.
He fixes the headlights, mostly.
Yeah, they're really the only lights that need doing.
So Jane is gonna fuck that German up. And I guess her car is all right, too, because she just... who knows what was wrong with it, but we just needed a way for Pete to get
That's
killed.
the sick irony. Pete just finished it as he died.
1 day away from retirement.
Too squished for this shit.
So here we have an extended chase sequence. I mean, this is...
I skipped most of this.
Yeah, this is a thing that doesn't really... Again, it's for two characters you know aren't going to win, so again, who really gives a shit? Jane eventually gets, like, splashed with mud as they're chasing, and it ends. The Resistance, I thought this wasn't gonna work here, but it does. The Resistance, again, in true Looney Tunes fashion, pulls out the giant detour sign and puts up a fucking, like, Wile E. Coyote painting the train tunnel on the cliff thing. As Matilda approaches, she's just like, oh good, a detour, I needed that, and then just fucking flies off a cliff and explodes.
The only thing they missed that I wish they had done is, instead of putting a, like, black paper over the entrance to this fake tunnel, I wish they had shown someone painting it. Painting a landscape in perspective.
Again, Wile E. Coyote would be proud of that skill. We cut to Junior Bruce, who is about to announce that Matilda has blowed up, but is tapped on the shoulder by Brown Suitman. And I believe, doesn't he start, it's just basically, oh, I would like to announce that Matilda has been never mind, scratch that, she made a big score!
Woo!
So Annie is still driving at this point, and we see a kid rolling a tire with a stick on the road.
The saddest kid in fiction.
Where did was that just like a 30s? Was that like a Great Depression thing, the tire with the stick?
I have a stick in a circle.
Oh yeah, like the hula hoop with the stick, not even a tire.
Yeah. Hoop with the stick, my favorite toy.
Or was that like the 1800s when they did that? Fuck.
It's a bad toy for poor people.
It's a bad toy for poor people. There's a nice big drum roll as Annie looks like she's gonna hit him, and then she just swerves around a tree, and she goes, oh, missed him!
That's not missing. Missing implies that you didn't do something deliberately.
Isn't she even like, damn, he's so fast? And Frankenstein's just like, I mean... And Annie even like turns to him and is like, does it get any easier to hit these people?
It's always hard. It's never easy.
That sounded like...
My impression's getting better the more I do it.
Are you sure that sounded like Stephen Hawking to me? Or is it like a computer voice?
What? Rude.
Frankenstein is clearly pretty suspicious of her now. The car stops and he has Annie walk around to the front of the car. And of course here, yes, is where it happens, where he revs the engine and she's just like... And all he asks is, where is that compound, really?
It's in Japan.
Oh. Why would you lie? Like, why? Why is there a compound with a bunch of senators and congressmen and cyclone fences in Japan?
Because everything is America. Also, why didn't he know that?
I don't know. They head back out on the road. Annie reveals herself as the granddaughter of Thomasina Paine now, and she just reveals the entire plan. It's just the mission was to reveal the ultimate, to implant the dude dressed as Frankenstein so they could give the ultimatum to Mr. President, which was just basically to spare Frankenstein's life in order to abolish the... Not even like not even to like, you know, hey, Mr. President, step down. Just, hey, Mr. President, if you want to save Frankenstein's life, there can't be no race no more.
Pretty reasonable.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, yeah, whatever. Frankenstein laughs at this, too, so I guess he doesn't really give a shit. Otherwise, he probably would have ran her over or, like, threw her out of the car.
Yeah, he gives so little of a shit that his entire outlook on life shifts to the end of the movie.
We cut to a party, presumably in the second stop of Albuquerque, I would think. I don't think they specified, but Grace Pander is eulogizing Matilda, a dear friend of hers.
And now she's knocking over angels in heaven.
That Tilda. Oh, you wacky Nazi.
Hotsy-totsy Nazi?
Every hotsy-totsy Nazi angel in heaven, if there's any of those. Harold says that Mr. President will be giving a special speech soon in regards to the enemies of the state. Joe, Myra, and Frankenstein, and Annie, and Jane, and everybody are all the people that are left, essentially, are all having dinner with Brown Suitman. I'm not sure what exactly... Frankenstein's eating carrots. Joe has what I assumed was like cake frosting all over his hand and face, but he says it's clam sauce later, I think?
Yeah, so it's some kind of white sauce that goes with pasta.
Okay. Alright, so... How very Italian.
Right?
Frankenstein is asked to accompany some other Brown Suitman in order to answer some questions alone. And normal Brown Suitman is still feeding a line to the racers about the resistance, saying they've already sent Grandma back to the asylum. Stallone's like, what happened with the thing? With the lady over the radio? And he's like, oh, she went into a studio with a gun! And we sent her back. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
And Joe throws some of that clam sauce at Bad Hair Man.
Yeah, Joe is still being an asshole about everything, just being like, we know what the fuck's happening, why don't we just say it? And Brown Suitman's just like, Mr. Viterbo, I will have you know that I am a very high-ranking official. I hold the powers of life and death. And then Stallone goes, I hold the clam sauce, and throws it at him.
Boom! And he does some, rude Italian gestures at him.
Several rude Italian gestures at once.
Uh-huh. Hey, I can do that. I wish you could see.
I'm trying to work it out in the way that I'm doing it, too. It's very awkward, but I think you can do it.
It's like the fist up on the arm, but also the other hand underneath the chin.
That is exactly what I'm doing, yes.
See, we are Italian.
I think we just invented a twice offensive Italian gesture where you combine them together. You do the hand up over the other, the up fist over the arm, and then the fingers under the chin.
We're going to do that next time at a family dinner when someone asks us how our jobs are going.
Throughout the scene as well, Joe has been telling the violinist to stop playing the music, at 3 separate occasions, until he finally...
Yeah, he doesn't tell, he screams.
It's not just like, excuse me, sir, would you mind stopping the music? He's like, what the fucking violin?
And then louder with every single increment, and eventually, he just takes the violin and smashes it. I told you to stop!
Frankenstein is being asked about the incident involving the resistance, the resist incident, if you will. He's asked if he took the road that he went down of his own initiative, rather than thanks to Annie. And Frankenstein protects Annie in this situation, even though he doesn't really need to.
He likes to bone down.
Bill likes going to Bone City. Yeah.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Bang bang, shot my...
No! Gonna cut you off right there. No!
Thank you. So we get Mr. President's speech now, and he blames the fucking French. God damn it, those fucking Frenchies.
God!
Them and their stinking European... Them and their stinking European allies ruining our economy and whatnot.
Fuck. The French!
Fucking Eiffel Tower, baguettes, God, Twilight in Paris. Fuck off!
Ugh, the Eiffel Tower.
Is everything I hoped it would be.
Yeah, that's right. And on top of it all...
Annie heads out to the car, where she is met by Joe. Joe also promised, despite Joe being a big clown, he also promised that the next time he saw Frankenstein, he would rip his heart out, as well as, he's gonna choke Annie now because of that fun little trick she played on him.
It turns into Inglourious Basterds.
Why didn't Annie actually try that trick in the second, so they would throw him off? Because they knew that he was gonna eventually get to Albuquerque, right?
Who knows?
Well, all's fair in love and war, as she says, but nope. Grabs her, starts strangling her, and I like how, even though he is strangling this woman at this point and it's terrible, Joe is just like, how does it feel? For the rest of your life, you're going to be in pain, which is going to be about a minute and a half.
He's still, cracking wise as he chokes the woman to death with his bare hands.
Luckily, Frankenstein arrives, though, and Joe, immediately tries playing it off, oh, I saw your lady friend.
I take something from your car. I was just stopping it. I got you back, bro.
And then they just start punching each other.
Yep, I skipped this fight.
I wrote in my notes, more iconic than Rocky versus Apollo.
Have you noticed, or did you notice while you were watching this, the cool globe ring that I referred to at the top of the podcast that Annie's wearing?
No, actually, I didn't. Is she wearing, a globe ring?
Yeah, it's not a globe like a map, but, the shape, like a sphere.
Huh.
It's, completely clear. It looks like a paperweight, but a ring. It's huge.
Huh, I didn't even...
It was super cool. She keeps it on when they frick later.
Just like Frankenstein's glove.
Yep, they both have their one little thing.
One thing that kind of ruins this fight, though, Kristen, there is a jazzy saxophone song playing in the background.
I guess I missed that because I was like, this seems like it's taking a while. I'm going to skip forward. Yep, still going. Okay, here's the end of the fight.
Yeah, it's just a little, they're punching each other and just...
Wow, wow, wow.
And there we go, saxophone impressions from the Can We Talk About podcast. Quality entertainment coming to you.
People who have never played saxophone.
Frankenstein ends the fight by cutting the side of Joe's face on the knife on the front of his car as like a warning, essentially.
Joe, do you know what that's called?
What is that called?
Poetic justice.
Whoa! Hoist by his own petard, maybe.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was considering saying, so.
Annie ponders why Frakenstein isn't just turning her in. Fuck, I told you everything, why don't you just turn me over?
And then he caresses her face with his gloved hand and says, Bone Zone.
The master.
No! And he wobbles his weird knees.
He's giving her a chance to save a small part of this world. Herself. The world doesn't want to be saved. And then Bone Zone.
Yeah, they have a weird philosophical conversation about how he's a cobbled together person who is just meant to win the race. They kiss.
And then she asks, hey, why didn't you ever take off that glove? But nope.
And he sticks it in her mouth. Bone
Zone. More kissing. Fade to the start of day 3. Jane is, despite having lost her navigator and such, she just walks over to Frakenstein and Annie, being pretty amicable, and just being like, despite what happens, it's been a great race, and you guys make such a cute little couple.
I thought she was gonna dunk on them at the last second, but she just walks over and she's like, hey, whoever wins, it was great.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I'm sad she's gonna die.
Yeah. And then just to... You see, because that's the thing. She goes right over to Joe and Myra to tell them basically the same thing, but she gets cut off because Joe's an asshole.
Yeah, save it for the French. What was that? Was that the punctuation?
That is, yes, that's how Sylvester Stallone enunciates periods.
Great.
So the race starts up for day 3. Joe hits it in reverse, scoring on his own pit crew, and I believe he calls them sons of bitches.
Yeah, they were making fun of him when they were guiding his car over because he had a cut on his face from his fight.
Right, okay. For some reason I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, so sons of bitches.
So yeah, after they're driving out here, Myra's just like, well, why don't you hit Jane? And, you better watch out for her. And Joe's just like, oh, come Frakenstein. And for some reason, do they have basically the exact same conversation that Frakenstein and Annie had earlier, where it's like, is all you care about Frakenstein?
You're probably a man with that Myra voice.
And for some reason, Stallone calls her, Myra, some people might think you're charming, but I think you're a very large baked potato.
What a nice thing to call someone. I mean, I really like baked potatoes. You're warm and I find you comforting.
Put some bacon on you. And some sour cream.
Sour cream.
You get some chives in there.
Ooh, a pat of butter.
Put your tin foil and throw you in the oven.
Ah! I want a supercut of our fucking...
Stallone voices.
All of our impressions.
God, it's so terrible. Junior recaps at this point, saying that while Frakenstein is winning, Joe is way ahead when it comes to points, and he might score a victory if he comes in second. And now we see some people, Kristen, I don't know if they're Resistance members, they're dudes on motorcycles.
Yeah, they are.
I don't know, usually you could tell by, the patch on their arm or, their blue jumpsuits, but they're wearing, leather motorcycle gear. They're burying...
It's a desert and it's sandy.
Yeah, they're burying landmines, or one single landmine.
You don't want to be buffeted by the sandstorm.
Yeah, there we go. Let that shit last 5 turns, you gotta be careful. They come out on the motorcycle to start attacking Jane, despite the fact that they just, put the mine in there, and it looks like she was gonna hit the mine anyway? Or do they,
They're leading her over to the
They lead her over to the mine. Okay, I was just about to say, yeah. Jane is just completely kick-ass and just, fucking... One jumps in the car and she throws him out, and then just has the other one just crashes, and... Jane stops she stops short of the landmine, right next to it.
Yeah, she sees, there appear to be quite a few blowed up cars around here. And she kind of looks around like, I should leave.
This is car graveyard.
Yeah, we have a weirdly tense scene of her backing up and going forward so she can turn all the way around, doing a 3-point turn. And it keeps showing her barely missing the landmine with her tire.
Yeah, it's really... And, I mean, I don't know why we would think that she would survive, but, yeah. She runs it over, and then, boom.
There can only be one.
There can be only one. Or 2, I guess, in this case.
One car.
So we cut back to Frankenstein.
One heart!
We cut back to Frakenstein and Annie now. R.I.P. Jane. Not much... There's not much fanfare to it. You gotta think, Kristen, they've spent less and less time on the deaths of the other... at least with Nero, they're like, oh my god, what happened? And at least with Matilda, they're like, oh, Matilda died. Oh, wait, no, she didn't. But we don't get a news report for Jane. And we don't get a news report when Joe blows up, so...
But everyone stopped caring.
We cut back to Annie and Frankenstein. Frankenstein asks for, like, the thermos, and... because he wants to just take a drink. Is it something where, like, did I miss something where, like, he, like, said, like, oh, give me the flavor drink or something? And he puts a pill in it.
They have, like, drinks that are specifically high in protein to kind of, keep them hearty during the drive and everything. So, yeah, he, like, leans down and I guess picks up a pill off of the floor of his car.
I thought it came from, like, a box of pills or something.
Oh, I couldn't see that. I just saw him, like, reaching down on, like, his, driver's seat, on his left side where there's not much room to keep anything.
Maybe it was in his boot. Who knows?
Maybe it was in his cup holder.
So he puts it in there and he fakes drinking it before, like, offering to Annie. And she's like, oh, what flavor is... I don't know why I'm doing the Myra voice for Annie. Oh, what flavor is it?
And he's like, vanilla.
The master hates chocolate.
That sounds like something that actually happened in Nanos.
Come on, Torgo.
It's because the master hates children.
Oh, fuck! Damn it. So close. But he could probably hate chocolate, too.
Probably. And he probably did. He was a douche.
When she drinks it, after being told it's vanilla, she's like, I don't think this is vanilla. This is, like, peach or something. And Frankenstein's just like, oh...
My tongue blew up!
My tongue blew up is a very good way to... He said his taste buds were fried, but yes, I enjoy his tongue blew up in a car crash.
Man, like, that must have been rough.
We see the Resistance with Lieutenant Fury striking out. He's gonna go attack Frankenstein. He's gonna take him as his prisoner, and Grandma's like, well, I want to come too.
I want to see your big day. You're graduating from Resistance School.
You're gonna fly the airplane so good. Oh, fuck. Oh, God, he's dead. Lieutenant Fury appears at this point in an airplane. He's very... For some reason, he's just like, Frankenstein, stop. Stop. Frankenstein, stop.
Hey.
Stop.
Hey. Stop.
At this point, Annie is... like, getting really drowsy. She can't seem to keep her eyes open, and she just kind of, like, bleh, gets knocked out.
Why did Frankenstein have a pass-out pill in his car?
This is all part of his plan, because, fuck it, because here comes Lieutenant Fury, and he's just like, oh no, Annie's dead! So now I'm really gonna let him have it. And then we get an extended sequence here of several things happening, one of which is this plane chase with a lot of, like, explosions as bombs are being, like, dropped near Frankenstein's car. Joe is watching from afar, and he's just like, yeah, this is my victory. It's gonna be fucking great.
I'm gonna go win.
And the Resistance try to blow him up, too, but he gets away, so...
Myra does also, go like, aren't we gonna help him?
Nope. Frankenstein is still being bombed at this point, still getting chased by both a plane and then a car with the Resistance, which gets turned over and blowed up after like 20 seconds.
This is a really incompetent Resistance. This is where this movie and the Hunger Games diverge.
Still some bombings. Maybe I turned away for a second, but there's a drum roll and then the plane flies into a mountain and explodes, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I didn't see much more fanfare than that either.
So, whatever. We cut to Junior at this point, who's just like, Frankenstein just got attacked by the French Air Force!
Those French dicks!
Annie comes to at this point as well, and yeah, Frankenstein says that, oh, good, right on time. That was a 30-minute sleep-ex, so we avoided having you do something both of us would regret.
And she takes it surprisingly well for
yeah.
a minute, and then no.
Well, I mean, she's just kind of like, oh, did the Resistance attack? And he's just like, yep, and I'm sorry they're your people, but... had to kill him, but hey, you know what? This is good. And she's like, you know what? I'm sorry it had to come to this. It's sorry it had to come to what? No, don't grab the wheel! No!
And they shake back and forth a little bit, and then stop, and they both get out of the car, and it's sunset.
And they're standing on a plateau, and Annie's just like, whose side are you on anyway? Frankenstein, you big mysterious David Carradine.
And he's like, I get to shake hands with Mr. President if I win, and then some shit gets weird.
I shake the master's hand, and he pulls off his glove, and there's a false hand with a grenade embedded into it, and he explicitly says,
it's a hand grenade!
It's a hand grenade! All he ever wanted, all he's ever worked for his entire life was shaking Mr. President's hand. That's all he needs to do, and they gotta win. That's why. So we find that, I guess, they have the same end game of taking down Mr. President.
As they're having their beautiful sunset love-studded moment with each other. She's saying, like, oh, I tried to throw the car off the cliff because it doesn't matter what happens to me now. And he replies, that is the dumbest, sorriest thing I ever heard you say. And I put, in the 3 days I've known you.
Yeah, this has been a whirlwind romance, hasn't it, Kristen?
Yeah, what's stronger than a whirlwind? A tempest?
A tsunami? A volcano?
No, you're just naming natural disasters.
A 10 on the Richter scale.
Do you know how high that is?
A lot.
That's true.
So now we are in, yes, the final stretch. Joe and Frankenstein are all that's left. Joe wants to win this race in the name of hate. And I don't remember why he said that. Like, Myra asked, I think. And that was it. Just, I will race in the name of hate.
I feel that too.
Frankenstein starts gaining. It suddenly turns into Spy Hunter as Joe's car starts shooting out an oil slick. Frankenstein goes off-road, but it doesn't really do anything. They're basically neck and neck. And for some reason, Annie's just like, hey, Frankenstein, you had that plan about blowing up Mr. President. Well, guess what I'm going to do? And she takes off his grenade hand and throws it into Joe's car.
And Myra tries very hard to be like, there's a hand grenade! There's a hand grenade! But it doesn't work.
Joe's just like, shut up, and then boom. That's it.
Yep.
Unceremoniously.
Myra's the most tragic figure of this entire movie.
So Frankenstein wins by default, essentially, but Annie still needs to shift gears for him now. Frankenstein's even just like, well, okay, so what do we do now? And Annie's just like, I think I got an idea.
I got it.
Frankenstein wins! Yay! Wins the death
Yay!
race. Wins the 2000th death race.
Hooray! What a happy ending.
Mr. President is here. He's standing up on a big old raised area podium platform thing. He is chastising the French and also blames them for wrecking the telephone system. Fuck it. I love it. Why not? I don't know how they could have done it, but they did it. Frankenstein heads up to the podium. We only see he is shot from behind at this point, so something might be amiss with Frankenstein.
Maybe he has boobs.
As well, he is holding a very small knife. It looks like she's carrying a Swiss like a Swiss multi-tool thing with like the little shitty knife that those have.
The really dull knife.
Frankenstein is about to hug Mr. President when Grandma appears in the crowd and fucking shoots him. And she must have been a really good shot because she fucking hits Frankenstein dead on.
And Frankenstein falls over and everyone's like, Frankenstein, no! And Mr. President takes off Frankenstein's mask and it's the bride of Frankenstein.
Oh my god, it's the bride!
It's Annie.
Frankenstein turns out to still be in the car, dressed in his undies again, I'm fairly certain, because...
Great!
And he drives up and fucking crashes right into the podium, killing Mr. President in the process. I'm assuming Annie got off the podium. I guess people took her away, I guess.
Gosh, I hope so.
Because, I mean, she's okay. But
yeah.
His arm is raised in victory. People are chanting Frankenstein's name, and he laughs, and we cut to the wedding of Mr. and Mrs. President Frankenstein, dear friends of Grace Pander.
I almost died when they said Mr. and Mrs. President Frankenstein.
It is wonderful.
What a great string of words.
It is their wedding, yes, and she asks about the first official acts of Mr. President Frankenstein, which he's going to do things like restoring minority privilege, free elections, all that good shit that was taken away, that I guess we have a fucking murder car race instead.
Yep, they're like, oh, what about instilling rebels into seats of government? And Frankenstein's like, well, I let one into my house, didn't I?
And then Grandma's just like, I'm going to take down all of the rebels, and then she cocks her shotgun.
Also, I'm twice as old as you thought.
Because, yes, here's where she says great grandma, and that might be, again, I'll have to check the IMDb goof section for that.
The race is abolished, and Charles Nelson Riley flips his shit.
He's just like, oh, you can't take away the race. Oh, why am I doing Jimmy Stewart there? Fuck. And yeah, Junior's just like, well, wait a minute. No, wait, it's a core American thing. You can't just get rid of the race Frankenstein.
It's violence, but that's who we are. We love violence.
And Annie is just like, Frankenstein, do we have to listen to this? And he's just like, got you covered. And fucking runs down Junior. Harold walks over and picks up his wonderful, it was like a little paisley scarf thing.
Yeah, some kind of neckerchief that Junior was wearing.
Everybody's cheering. And then as the end comes up, Harold starts rambling about the origins of violence.
Yeah, I stopped listening.
The end! Hooray! Kristen, I'm pretty surprised. It sounds like you like this movie quite a bit.
I did like it. It was, just that level of goofy enough. I feel like it did not overstay its welcome with its runtime.
Yeah, well, that always helps. An hour and 11 minutes.
And, like, the goofier some things are, I have less issues with, like, I may nitpick a little bit, but those things don't bother me.
A lot of B-movie breasts in this movie, a lot of Sylvester Stallone hitting a lady for no reason, but hey, it's kind of like the Orin thing, where he's comically evil, so you can kind of, like, not let him, but, like, okay, I understand this character.
We're not supposed to like him. It's fun to dislike people like that.
Right, exactly. The only kind of note that I have before the ending here is just basically, I wish this is how Wacky Races was, and I don't know I don't want to say this inspired Wacky Races, because I have no idea. Wacky Races might have already been out at this point. I have a very loose timeline when it comes to Hanna-Barbera.
As you can tell based on our previous hatred of it.
I know that Scooby-Doo was 1969, which I remember when watching it in, like, the 90s as a child. I was like, 1969? Really? They had cartoons back then?
They had television? They had electricity?
Little did I know.
Yeah. Not that long ago, weirdly enough.
But yeah, this movie, I'd say, is just enough of... It's. I think you were saying before we started recording the podcast here, where it takes it, like, just seriously enough where it's not entirely a comedy, and there's still, like, things we can laugh about at the movie as well as with the movie, and it's just general B-movie goodness.
Yeah, just a much more strictly, literally B-movie than, Big Trouble in Little China, which was a fake version of that, but the same sensibilities between them.
Yeah, it still had the same cool, fun things between it. I'd say Big Trouble in Little China is definitely a more fun movie, but then again, it had way more budget and Kurt Russell and shit. So, I mean, again, it's great, and it's kind of weird that they remade this movie, and I'm pretty sure it took all of, like, the camp and silly elements out of it. I haven't seen it, but, I mean, it's Jason Statham, so you could kind of assume... I mean, again, the Crank movies are a great... silly, incredibly stupid Jason Statham movie, but I don't think Death Race that was made in 2008 was that.
Who knows? We will have to do a little bit of research in on there.
I don't know if I want... That seems like one of those movies, one of those terrible, like, mid-2000s movies that's just, like, terrible to watch because it's not fun. It's just like, oh, action, cool.
Joe, you misunderstand me. I didn't mean watch the movie. I meant read the Wikipedia page.
Can do!
Yeah!
Now is the point in the evening where we'll list off all of the fun contact things where you can reach us. You can follow us on the Twitter machine at cwtapod. You can follow me at Octopus, that is AWKTAPUS.
You can follow me at FunnyGirlTM, like trademark.
You can find us on the iTunes, on the SoundCloud, on the Stitcher Radio. Leave a rating, give a review, do whatever you feel like. You can also reach us, cwtapod@gmail.com, where you can tell us all about how good our Torgo and Sylvester Stallone impressions were, and many of your loved ones that have been affected by the transcontinental road race. Next week, Kristen, our foray into movie continues. This time, we are pole vaulting way ahead, straight to the goddamn 2000s. Right? Again, we didn't bother... Well, I was going to say we didn't bother stopping in the 90s, but I guess we did for Face Off, so never mind. We are jumping straight to the 2000s, and it is Japanese, Kristen.
Yeah, back in the fledgling days of the Can We Talk About podcast, we got an email from my friend E, who is inspiring our pick for next week.
Yeah, so they're probably going to be the only one who will know what it is, other than Japanese, I guess, and from the 2000s, which could make it basically anything.
Ooh, and I can use this as a test to see if he actually still listens to the podcast. Hey, E, if you hear this, tweet at me. Prove your friendship!
Much like Blade Runner, we're going to be doing some experimentation here, where Kristen will be watching the dub, and I will be watching the sub, so look forward to that. I'm sure we'll have plenty of fun comparing the notes on that.
I'm having heart palpitations already.
For the Can We Talk About podcast, my name is Joe.
I'm Kristen.
And join us next week when we'll go into the distant future of the decade of 2000!
The check is in the year 2000! The future.